ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device. All right, folks, welcome out to the Logger Room. It is Thursday, October 1st. We have a lot to talk about today. With you today is yours truly, Jersey Johnny, and with me, as always, the preeminent RadioPete. Say hello, Pete.
Hello, Pete.
That's his infamous
2 weeks in a row, baby.
2 weeks in a row. And
the
with
record
us,
is 4.
There you go. And with us also today, as always, is the also preeminent Harry Lug Nutz. Harry, say hello.
Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I have nothing to complain about other than, the fact that it's 2020. But
This is true. This is true.
Nothing out of the ordinary to complain.
No, it's a pretty standard year, isn't it?
It depends on who you're talking to, but yeah, I would imagine.
That's right.
So.
That's right. Who would have thought we would be watching NBA games with the backdrop that looks like Max Headroom on acid? You just.
I thought I was Max Headroom on acid while I was watching it.
Well, you were in the 80s, but
it's
been a long time ago.
All right, folks, we got a lot to talk about today. Once again, thank you for listening to our podcast. If you are listening to our podcast through our website, www.loggerroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. Or, of course, a link off of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, which are all at The Logger Room. Just so you're aware, we are also available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you don't miss one iota of a podcast or a show, however you want to look at it. All right, folks, we're going to get going. We're going to open it up with football week 3. Let's talk about... Let's talk about some games. Let's start with the Giants. Let's talk about the Giants. Week 3 against the 49ers. What does anybody think? I'll go with you first, Harry. What do you think about the Giants last week specifically in the 49ers game?
Well, they looked atrocious and got beat like a drum by a 49ers team who I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they were their hot dog vendor who needed some employment, and somebody from the training room were playing the defense backfield. The 49ers were hurt. They didn't even have their best players, and the Giants are bad. They're really bad, and I was thinking that I was thinking maybe I was being too hard on them when I predicted they would only win 3 games when I was looking at their schedule this year. But I think I overshot that by a couple. They just might have a perfect season.
That is true. I was in the beginning of the season being cautiously optimistic, or at least that's what I said. I was being cautiously optimistic and predicting that they were going to have at minimum a 6-10, 7-9 season, but I thought that they could actually pull out an 8 and eke out an 8-8 season. I was way off.
They might be able to eke out mediocrity.
Yeah. You know what? When they've been underachieving for the last 3 years, 8-8 is a damn fine season, and that's a sad thing to say. We're talking about the Giants, but I gotta say it. After the last 3 years in the first 3 games, my time machine works. It's 1978.
They were better in 78. Come on.
Yeah. No, not so much. I think they went 3-13 in.
Like I said, they were better in 78.
Well, there you go. Yeah, actually.
I guess at this point, you'd probably take. What did they have? 5 wins last year.
They had 5 wins last year. Yeah,
you'd probably take 5 wins right now. You'd probably sign for that right now.
I would sign for 4 wins right now, looking at what they have in front of them.
Looking at what's going on. And, John, you and I talked about this last week because the 49ers, and we talked a lot about the injuries, but, they put a nice shellacking on the Jets in the previous week, and then 29 guys on their team got hurt. And we were
Was it only 29?
28, sorry. 28.
Yeah.
28 and the backup kicker.
There you go.
All injured. And we were saying, oh, geez, this might be a chance for the Giants to win a game. We're not bold enough to pick them.
I mean, do you have to have an asterisk? Yeah.
The coin,
Yeah, no,
the coin didn't even pick the Giants.
The coin didn't even pick the Giants. But boy, after this week's game, or this past week's game, where's the hope? What is it they're going to do? What do they have to do? How do they get better?
I don't know. I got a couple of stats. I'll bring them up. The entire 60 minutes of football last Sunday with the Giants and the 49ers, the Giants were not in the red zone once. They did not make the red zone once the entire game. Not one red zone snap at all the entire game.
Wow. So they were perfect in the end zone, in the red zone.
There you go. They were.
Yeah, they didn't fail.
They didn't fail. Yeah. Wow, that's even sadder than I thought.
It's ridiculous. I mean, they had 3 field goals. 3 field goals. That was their scoring. That was it. That was their 9 points. They did not make it into the red zone once. And the running game, obviously with Barkley's out. Hopefully he gets. I'm sure he'll be better. Knock on wood, the whole 9. But right now their running game last week anyway was Freeman, Lewis, and Gallman. Freeman, Lewis, and Gallman. Between the 3 of them, they had 10 running plays. 10 runs. Between the 3 backs, there were 10 run plays.
Well, they were down 20 by the time they got to...
Sure. You know what the amount of yardage they got collectively on those 10 attempts?
37?
17. Freeman had 10 yards, Gallman had 7 yards, and Lewis had 1 attempt for no yardage whatsoever. Their highest yardage gaining running back last Sunday was Daniel Jones. He had 5 carries for 49 yards.
But that combined yardage, that's still way more than Saquon got before he got hurt, right?
True story. And
was it minus 6 on 15 carries or something like that?
Something like that.
It
might have been 6 yards on 15 carries.
It tells you that maybe it's not the running back's fault. Maybe, just maybe, their offensive line and their play calling is not that great. Just a crazy assumption.
Just a spitballing thought.
Spitballing.
One or maybe both of those things might be true.
I think it's both.
I think it's both.
This, I mean, we could go down this for. I don't even really think it's worth talking about because I sort of expected it, and it's been this way for a long time. There was a little bit of spike of hope with the whole, Daniel Jones coming in and beating Tampa Bay in his first game. I mean, look, they've made some really bad decisions. The Giants have traditionally been really good at personnel decisions. They've been traditionally really good at getting offensive, receivers in 2nd and 3rd and 5th rounds. It just seems like everything they've done in the last 5-6 years has been bad.
Insane. Horribly bad.
And they are, but what they're not good at is they're not good at really being bad, so they get the top pick at the end of the year. And I'm hoping maybe this year they might actually do that. Although
they can't. Even
last year was the year to do that.
Right. They can't even be good at being bad. That's the problem.
They can't even be good.
But I wouldn't really say. I mean, I wouldn't close the book on Daniel Jones as being completely a flop at this point. I think he's got some skills and some potential.
Right. It's not fair.
So you could say where they drafted him, or maybe they drafted him early and they.
About 7 rounds.
That's certainly a more than valid argument, but him as a pick, I don't think.
I have not closed the book on him, but I've returned it to the library a long time ago.
Well, John and I were talking about this last week, and I said, when's the last time the Giants had a really good offensive line?
Yeah. 86, 90. I mean,
it's been a long time.
Well, I mean, they had a pretty good offensive line, when they won their last Super Bowl.
Yeah, the last Super Bowls,
But it was a different type of offense.
Sean O'Hara, David Deal. I mean, those guys were.
The Giants passed the ball a lot then. They were a good pass protection kind of team. They always kept the back end to sort of help out with chip blocking.
Sure.
And but the Giants have not been they have Saquon Barkley. It's the only real offensive weapon they have, and you would think that they would go back to this Giants team of just attacking and running the ball, and they can't do it. And look, the defenses today are different. It's a different league in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of other teams that seem to be able to run the ball with running backs who certainly are not as talented as Barkley. So I just think I think there's been bad decisions personnel wise. I think there's been bad decisions. I'm not on board, and it's too early to sort of close the book on all of this, but I think it's going to take some time for them to gel. It's a new head coach. It's a new offensive coordinator. It's new personnel. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of turnover on the roster, and now they're dealing with major injuries. So we might not know, this year what their potential is. I think it's going to take a while.
Yeah, I do think it's going to take a while. It's just a shame that they're wasting some talent. And yeah, I mean, I'll say it right now. I mean, they wasted a bunch of the last years of Eli's career. They wasted what they had with Odell when they had Odell. They wasted the first 3 years of Saquon Barkley's career. And it's a shame that it comes to that. But at first I blame the biggest blame. I mean, the biggest blame I blame is Mara, because he should have, in the first place, back in the day, he should have gotten rid of Reese and not Coughlin. And then he wound up getting rid of Reese a few years later. And, I put most of the blame on Jerry Reese, but I definitely put the blame right now, obviously, the last few years on Gettleman. I mean,
Gettleman's pretty bad. I mean, he's defiant in his decisions, and he has all of the control over what that team's going to do. And I do think that there are much better picks to be had than Jones. I don't think he's a horrible pick, but I think there was a lot of people in the New York area hoping that a New York team would take somebody from Duke in the first round, but it wasn't Daniel Jones, and it wasn't football.
If only they'd had the chance.
It's only they had the chance. That's right. But it is what it is. Having said that, looking at the Giants' schedule, I think their best chance is when they play Washington. I think they've got that's their shot at kind of winning a game against the football team formerly known as the Washington Redskins.
The Washington football.
The
team.
Washington football squad. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who
guys.
else. Looking at their schedule, who else do you feel comfortable that they?
I don't feel comfortable with them beating anybody. They're going to lose this week. There's no way they're beating the Rams in SoFi. It's not happening. They're going to lose to Dallas the week after down in Dallas. And you know what? Maybe they squeak out a win against. You know what though? Here's the thing about the Giants, and this has been true about the Giants for the last coming up on near 100 years now. When you think it's a game that they can win, they won't. When you think it's a game that they won't win, they do.
That's sports now, all across the board in some way.
So it wouldn't be
on any given Sunday.
Look, I'm gonna come out and tell you my pick right now, and when we do the picks at the end of the show, my pick for the Giant game this week is that the Rams are going to win. That's my pick, and I'm sure it's both of yours too. Who knows what the coin's going to say? But I'm telling you right now. Come Monday morning, I will not be shocked, or come Sunday night, I will not be shocked to realize that the Giants beat the Rams.
Yeah, they're going to find a way to go, 3-13, and there's going to be another team that's 2-14, and they're just
right. But then again, here's the thing though: if you're not closing the book on Daniel Jones, are you really drafting Trevor Lawrence? Whoever has the top pick is drafting.
If I'm
unless
in charge,
it's the Jets.
Yeah. And last year, if Burrow was available, I would have taken Burrow. Yeah. I think if the Giants have the opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence and they don't,
oh sure,
then they're idiots.
I understand what you're saying, but the reason I'm saying that is if you're not closing the book on Daniel Jones, what are you doing with him? Are you hoping he has a decent season? You get, even though you have the worst record, you take Trevor Lawrence and trade Daniel Jones, or you keep both of them. What are you doing? I'm asking.
I'd like to have that problem.
Oh, it'd be a great problem to have.
I think obviously you're gonna have Jones for another year on his rookie contract. Is that next year?
Great. This is only second year.
Only second year, yeah.
So
Saquon, you have for 2 more.
For 2 more years, and you let him battle it out. But I think Trevor Lawrence immediately is an upgrade there.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
I mean, look, I thought the Giants missing out on potentially being able to get Joe Burrow this year. Then look, Burrow's playing for Cincinnati, a team that has about the same amount of talent as the Giants, but he's able to at least put them in a position to at least get close to winning a game. He's got more intangibles, I think, than Daniel Jones is. And I'm not I'm not closing the books on Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones would be a great backup quarterback on the Giants, but I just don't see him leading this Giants team to the playoffs in the next 5, 6, 7 years. I just don't.
I would just say I would think of him as a passable quarterback, a passable starter, but unless you put a really, really strong team around him,
Sure,
he's not going to win Super Bowls. And look, there are teams that have won Super Bowls with mediocre quarterbacks, and he could be one of those. But if you don't get better quickly, he's never going to develop the skills.
And he's not the biggest problem.
No, he's not.
He's not even in the top 10, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, we heard all of these improvements that they supposedly made, and it just goes back even to last year. A lot of the signings they made, they took players that were past their prime and paid them big money with Nate Solder. It's just, I just don't think the personnel decisions have been great.
Well, here's a bright spot. You got rid of Flowers.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can always fall back on that. No matter how down you might be, you just think, they got rid of Flowers.
And look, we might be able to get Odell back at a bargain price.
He might be just thrilled to come back to New York.
It wouldn't shock me. Would it shock you? It wouldn't shock me.
No, I was going to say he'd be thrilled to come back to New York, as would anyone who ever goes to Cleveland,
right?
For any reason.
That's right. People are thrilled to go to Jacksonville after spending 3 years in Cleveland.
It would not shock me for them to get him back. And you know what? Hey, you know what? I don't. Locker room issues or not, right now their defense, unless they're just shutting down the season right now, which isn't an improbability. But go out and get Earl Thomas. I mean, he almost went to the Texans, and then they said no at the last minute. I mean, they need.
Hell, at this point, the Giants should go out and get Earl Campbell. I mean, is Jumbo Elliott available? I mean, Jumbo Elliott with no mobility has to be better than what I've seen so far.
Jumbo Elliott right now, at this point in this time in life.
A cardboard cutout of Jumbo Elliott strapped to a hand truck.
I mean, 2 dumpsters and a garbage can would protect Daniel Jones better than the Giants' offensive line right now.
A half a dumpster and a half a garbage can would protect.
Well, it's like when you got a couple guys and you want to kick the soccer ball around. So you take a garbage can and you stick like a broom. You make a little cross out of a broom and a hockey stick.
You have to run around it.
And you just kind of put that in there, and that's the goal.
That's right. Yeah, that's going to be our offensive line next week is 6 brooms and a garbage can. Yeah, and just stick a Giants helmet on it. I mean, how long does it take to get past the garbage can? I bet it gives him more time to pass. It'll also give him more time to throw interceptions, but that's besides the point. Yeah, they don't look good, and I'm not really impressed with Judge. But again, he didn't pick everybody that he's coaching, and I think the Giants have to stick with something. That's the other thing is that they're really quick to kind of.
Well, that's becoming more and more of a rarity in the league in general.
Sure,
and look, the Giants' best player is obviously Saquon. How many more years does he have left? And am I correct in saying that this is already the second year where he's going to miss? A lot of playing time. It's just he might not be able to live up to what we all thought he would be, and that's the other thing is rule number 1: don't spend a ton of money on a running back.
Right.
It's they just don't have the shelf life they used to. It's
they don't.
I mean, Bill Belichick finds guys outside the Dunkin' Donuts in Worcester and puts them in a Patriots uniform and seems to be able to win games.
He just brings in a lot of ex-Jets.
Yes.
He's like, oh, you got cut from the practice squad? Come on, come play next 3 weeks. We need you.
You're good enough.
You go.
Yeah, you're good enough.
You're good enough.
Yeah.
You follow my scheme, it will work.
I mean, that brings up the question: will the Jets win more games than the Giants?
Well, I was just going to say we're on the note of franchises winning with mediocre quarterbacks. Let's shift our attention to the Jets for a second. 2 AFC Championship games in a row with Mr. Sanchez at the helm. Then you can definitely equate that with that comment as well.
How good is Darnold? I mean, I think the Jets have a good chance of winning tonight.
What do you think, Pete?
No, they're going to lose.
They're going to lose?
Yeah.
Now, are you speaking that as a somebody that knows football or a Jets fan?
I have to go with history.
Yeah.
because we know it repeats itself.
Well, you do have history on your side for that comment.
Yeah. So I mean, there are plenty of times that I could just say that they're going to lose and be right. I could say it every single game, and I would have a far greater percentage of accuracy than if I said they're going to win. I wish I could say I was totally disgusted with this team, but that's kind of a constant state. So I'm just sort of status quo. Just this year's pretty much in the toilet. They'll probably do something dumb like, win 2 out of the last 3 games or something, and they'll maybe have 3 or 4 wins, and then you're not getting a good pick, or, certainly not a high enough pick that you want. And they've shown very little aptitude for anything administratively.
Sure.
And I guess for me, the greatest shame, or the biggest shame, is you just asked the question is, how good is Sam Darnold? We may never know as long as he's wearing a Jets uniform.
Right.
Because he may never get the chance to either, prove that he is what people are hoping that he is, or is going to develop into that, or he's, going to be almost by default a bust because maybe he never has a good enough team around him. Maybe he never has a good enough coach. Yeah. Or maybe he never has the same coach for more than 8 months.
Yeah, or he's put in a situation where he's vulnerable to getting injured and and ending his career early, God forbid. But it's just I see that too. I mean, they're certainly in the same camp. They're certainly not giving him a ton of time to do anything.
And it still goes without saying, and things are changing now a little bit, but there are more young quarterbacks coming in that seem game ready, at least if we look at just the last couple of years, or that are having success at a young age. But generally speaking, when you bring rookies in and you put them on a bad team,
right,
which often happens because the bad teams get the high picks, they're going to struggle and they're going to develop bad habits, and that's a concern as far as Darnold. Because once those things are ingrained, it's very hard to undo them. You throw into the coverage instead of throwing it away, or they develop bad habits that never go away, and they never get a chance to fulfill their potential.
And these younger quarterbacks that are coming in are a new breed of quarterback. I mean, some of them are the best of both worlds, like Mahomes, who's obviously head and shoulders above everybody else. But I'm seeing guys who their athleticism is helping them move their team forward and obviously have better games with their legs. Darnold and Jones are old school quarterbacks in a lot of ways, and there's not very many of them left in the league. And I'll tell you what, the ones that are left aren't looking so great anymore. It's the speed of the game, the way in which the game is the rules of the game, and the talent. It's a downhill game now. And when you have somebody who could spread the field, it's pretty incredible. I mean, even Cam Newton coming back off of years where he didn't play very much, he's leading the Patriots in rushing. I mean, it's even Burrow, who's more of a pocket passer than most. He's able to extend the game on the ground, and that's where I think the future of this position is. Obviously, you're going to have your guys like Mahomes who can do both and score 30 points in one quarter if he so chooses with the talent that he has. But for a lot of these other teams, they're able to put points on the board because they have somebody behind the center who's much more versatile at the game today than I think we've ever seen.
It's crazy. Another stat talking about the Jets and the Giants. Jets and the Giants are both 0-3 right now. And this is the third time ever that they were 0-3 in the same year. First two were 1976, which is not a shocker, and 1996, actually. So it's been 24 years since the last time they were both 0-3 at the same time.
And they're still not as
so they're due.
They're due. It's coming. One other thing that I found out, too, the Giants have scored touchdowns on 33.3%, so a third of the time, 33.3% of their red zone visits so far in these last 3 games, in the first 3 games of the season.
And how many red zone visits, John?
No. That ranks last in the NFL, scoring a TD on 33 1/3% of the red zone visits so far in these first 3 games.
Well, and they have the fewest amount of red zone visits.
They're last in the NFL, but they're tied for last. I'm going to give you a guess at who they're tied with.
Is it obvious or surprising?
Let Pete take it. It's a little obvious.
Can you read their name in my video window?
Yes, I certainly can.
Okay, they wear green.
They wear green. They play in the same stadium.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like a very Jet-esque stat.
Yeah,
the Giants and the Jets are both tied for last in that stat.
Beautiful. Well, listen, you just need to throw more 21-yard passes.
There you go.
They don't play each other this year either, do they?
What's that?
The Giants and Jets don't play this year, do they?
No, they played last year. I mean,
that would have maybe been the ultimate garbage bowl of all time, especially if it was like week 16 and they were both 0-15.
Well, that would have been
exciting.
That would have been the game to see who gets the top.
Who would have laid down more? It just would have been people rolling the ball to the other team. Here, go score a touchdown.
Well, it's like
every play would have been an interception.
I want Trevor Lawrence.
Play would have been.
I want Trevor Lawrence.
You want it? No, I'll take it. No, you got it.
Yeah, that would have been like, who's the next to last guy in the little town who dies when the plague hits?
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, I'm the last guy.
Yeah, last man standing.
Last man standing. That was the phrase I was looking for.
Yeah.
All right. So we could be Buffalo fans.
Well, they are the only true New York team.
I can't be a Buffalo fan though.
Last week they looked like a New York City team by coming out to a very big lead and then almost giving it away. But yeah, the Buffalo looks good.
Buffalo does look good. They definitely look good. I got a question. Either of you watched the game?
The Buffalo
Rams game, yeah.
Parts of it, yeah.
Okay, the end of the game, which should have been the end of the game, but it was not. When they threw the defensive pass interference flag.
Yeah, Buffalo they got a gift.
That was a gift. The Rams won that game. They didn't. Bills did not win that game. Kudos to them, but that was not. If anything, first of all, it should have been a non-call. But if anything, it was offensive pass interference. He pushed off of him.
I just, I sound like an old man, but I just wish all sports were officiated like 90s NBA basketball, and it would just be a lot more fun.
If nothing gets broken and no one's bleeding,
then just let them play. Come on. I mean, I understand it, but it's just about the replay now, and and anything that gives Chris Collinsworth more time talking just drives me nuts.
It's ridiculous with the
and then something really ridiculous happens, and then they change a rule or institute a new rule,
right?
And then they don't even really follow it.
No.
Right,
because nobody understands.
We dealt with that because of the Saints and the Rams, right, and then the Saints ended up getting screwed like 2 more times, basically the same situation.
Yes,
and so maybe a little karma for the Rams in this case. But
let me ask this: Jets and Giants coaches, how hot are the seats of the coaches? Obviously, we're talking about 2 totally different things. Joe Judge just came in. I mean, they gave Ben Mack a douchebag 2 years. I don't think they're going to pull the rug out from underneath Joe Judge on this year. But how hot are the seats of the Jets and the Giants coaches?
Hard to say because the Jets management is just as terrible as the on-field as far as decision making goes. I would tend to think he'll just stay this season because they don't know what else to do, and they're paying him. And if anyone has any, who are you going to get? Who are you going to bring in? Or you're going to fire him and you're going to make Greg Williams, your interim head coach? That's not wise. You can say, anything's going to be an upgrade. Great. Just continue to lose. Just go with what you're doing. You're paying him. Go the season. And if you don't get half a dozen wins, then you fire him, or you fire him anyway.
So you don't think there's been reports out there. I think Adam Schefter said something the other day. He says a lot every day. That hey, they could be looking at moving him out on Friday, depending on what happens in the Thursday night game this week.
Well, there's always a
game.
chance they could be looking to do anything.
But to Pete's point, who do they get?
They would just move up Greg Williams to an interim head coach. I mean, that's the only real choice that they would have right now.
Unless you think that's really going to solve the problem.
Well,
why bother?
I said that if they weren't going to take back 2 years ago or a year and a half ago when they got Adam Gase and they passed on Mike McCarthy, I said that the better head coach bet than Adam Gase would have been Greg Williams. I mean, he was just coaching in Cleveland. I mean, it's Cleveland. He's a better coach than his record showed in Cleveland. I think Greg Williams would actually make a better coach. Is he the right man for the job at the helm of the Jets for the future? I don't know, but I think he's the better bet right now. I think if they fired Gase, if they lost tonight and fired Gase tomorrow and they still had another 12 games, you'd see decent, I mean, for what they could do, I mean, with injuries and all, but what they could do, I think you'd see a better outcome for the rest of the season than you would with Adam Gase.
Yeah, but then you might get into a situation last year in the second half of the year, they showed some life and won some games, and it didn't really help them.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a feel-good story, but listen, knowing them, I agree with what you just said, but knowing them, they might look at that and go, hey, we won some games under Greg Williams. He's the guy now.
Right.
Yeah. Instead
of going after somebody from the outside or another team, there's a few names that are bounced around, and then some guys that, haven't had head coaching jobs. So I think I agree with you that Williams might do a better job, but he'll probably just end up staying, and he's not the answer. I agree with you there either. I'd rather just lose and get a high draft pick.
Right.
And that way you can say, well, Gase, he had however 2 seasons plus or whatever it is,
right.
However many games, and he was an utter failure, and so we fired him.
Two different scenarios. I mean, you look at the Jets, and there's always been a little bit of, well, how systemic is this sort of? Does he have the players on his side? Does he have this team motivated to play for him? And I think the verdict's kind of out on that. With the Giants, it's brand new, and they're not going to bail ship on this because it was a fairly outside of the box pick anyway with the Giants to name Judge head coach. And so their management and their decision makers, they're not going to say that they're wrong right away. Just like I'm sure if the Giants have a chance to draft Trevor Lawrence, they won't because of the arrogance of their upper management. And so, and the other thing too is it's who do you have? I think you're going to start. I think you're going to have an era where I think you're going to start to see college coaches come in depending on what the personnel is that the NFL teams either have or could potentially draft. Because let's be honest, how many great coaches are there in the NFL right now that are available or not coaching? And even for the ones that are coaching, how many of them are really good? They're not going anywhere. Andy Reid's not going anywhere. Bill Belichick's not going anywhere.
You're going to be taking a chance on somebody new.
Josh McDaniel already left New England. He's not going to try that again. I mean, who's under Andy? A lot of times these coordinators that people take chances on, the Giants know this really well. Oh, gee, the Vikings had one good year. It's just there's not a lot of great coaches out there. So,
and I think your point about the arrogance, is Gettleman going to admit?
No,
we made a mistake and draft Trevor Lawrence. No, he won't.
Right. He won't, and it's frustrating. But
sorry, just one other thing. Can you really judge the job? I mean, yes, you can judge the job that Joe Judge does. I'm sounding like a Dr. Seuss.
Judge.
You can judge the judge based on what he has and what he does with what he has. But can he really game plan when his main offensive weapon is lost for the season?
No.
Are you really seeing what he would do with Saquon Barkley if he doesn't have Saquon Barkley?
I don't even think you could judge him because Saquon Barkley without any sort of people blocking for him to give him at least a chance, you still can't. So I think you have to allow. I think in today's NFL, you have to allow the coaches to have some say in what personnel moves are done and how they draft, because Joe Judge is kind of an interesting, guy in that he's he seems to have more discipline than some of their past coaches. Since Coughlin left, the players seem to be up for playing with, and they just don't have the talent. I don't think it's really a matter. He came into a situation where it's not going to be easy to win, and they just don't have the talent. And I think it starts on the defensive and offensive line. Defensive line, the Giants have always had great pass rushers, multiple great pass rushers in defensive linemen. But look at the decisions they've made in the past few years. They're not bringing people on board that can help influence the game. And until they do, I don't think. I mean, JoJo's could be there for 5 years. I don't think we're going to really know what his capability is because he just doesn't have the personnel around him.
No, and did you happen to notice who they actually signed? And only to the practice squad for now. They actually signed Alfred Morris.
Yeah, well,
I was waiting for you to say who.
Yeah,
Alfred Morris. Yeah, I mean he had what 4 good seasons with Washington.
Yeah, back in the 90s.
That ended 5 years ago. So
well, he's well rested.
There you go.
Yeah, he's well rested. I mean,
he's got fresh legs.
There's only so many running backs that can play late into their career anymore, and it's just they're not out there.
No, they're not.
And the Jets and the Giants are going to have all of them.
Yeah, that's not going to prolong their career at all. I don't think either of them are on the hot seat, to be honest with you. If the Jets do make a move, I think it's just going to be internally, and they're going to play it out.
I don't think anybody goes before the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't know why you would. I mean, there's nobody available that unless if they would have, if they thought, hey, somebody underneath would have been a better decision, then I think they would have already made that call.
Let's take a trip around the league for a couple minutes here. Right now, there are 7 undefeated teams right now left in the NFL. 4 in the AFC and 3 in the NFC. In the AFC, there are the Bills, the Chiefs, the Steelers, and the Titans.
Only one of them will remain unbeaten indefinitely this week.
Well, let's see. The Steelers game is postponed.
Well, that's my point. Yeah.
So that's the only one that's going to remain.
Well, definitely. I don't know. The others might, but I can guarantee you the Steelers will
Steelers
still be
will
undefeated
remain
at the end of this week.
All right.
I'll bet you everything I have on that.
All right. Well, that's a safe bet. You heard it here first, folks. Make sure you put your money on the Steelers not losing.
You can find a book.
Don't put your money on them winning. Put your money on them not losing.
If you have a bookie who's been sleeping for the last week, then hit them up.
Yeah, if he just came back from vacation.
That's right.
Put down a C note.
All right. Bills, of those, where I was getting at, of those, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Steelers, and the Titans, who are really true 3-0 teams and who kind of just fell into it?
Yeah, well, we talked about the Bills. Who did they play the first couple of weeks? And then last week they looked kind of vulnerable and almost gave away a big lead. But I don't know. Can you say, if you win, you're legit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless the other team is, handing you the ball in your own end zone while they're, on their final drive or something like that.
Yeah, none of them have played the Giants. So.
Yeah. No. One of them has played the Giants. The Steelers played the Giants.
That's right, Steelers.
So.
Obviously, what was it? Let's see. Bills, Chiefs, who else?
Steelers and Titans.
Oh, Steelers and Titans. Okay, well, the Chiefs are obviously legit. Pittsburgh looks good with a rejuvenated Big Ben. So I think you could say that they're legit. And the Titans, I don't know. I wouldn't say I feel. I'd have to put them in the no category, I guess.
Yeah, I would too. But I'll tell you one thing the Titans do know how to do. They know how to win close games. They beat Denver by 2, Jacksonville by 3, and Minnesota by 1.
Yeah. And they're all really good.
They've won 3 games by a combined total of 6 points.
Against 3 teams who, Denver and Jacksonville, Jacksonville, I don't know. The verdict's out on them. I don't know. But Denver does not look good. And Minnesota, I think, is going to be the underachiever of the year.
They've already been the underachiever. It's amazing where a lot of people were picking them to win the North.
Yeah, and they're already done.
They'd be lucky to come in third, I think, right now. The combined total of wins for all of the teams that each face, the Bills The three teams the Bills beat are a combined total of 3-6. The Chiefs, same thing, 3-6. The Titans, 1-8, and the Steelers, 0-9.
The answer to your question is the only team that's a true 3-0 team is the only team that is head and shoulders above everybody else in the league, and that's the Chiefs. And they proved that this past week because they beat arguably the second best team in the league handily. And the thing that's scary about the Chiefs right now is that I think their defense is head and shoulders better than they were last year. And
their defense really surprised me.
They looked fast, they looked active, and they looked really aggressive, and they contained one of the hardest weapons to contain in the league this past week. Unless injuries creep in or something unforeseen happens, the Chiefs are it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, the Chiefs were. I mean, I really believed that the Chiefs were going to win Monday night, and Pete and I talked about that last week. But I did not think they were going to win like that.
No,
that was just
and if you watched the first drive of the game, you thought, "Oh wow, maybe Baltimore's for real," but they aren't. I mean, they are, but not against the Chiefs. It's just
and not for 60 minutes against the Chiefs.
It's insane. Moving over to the NFC, Harry, you start this time. Seahawks, Packers, and Bears. Those three teams are the undefeated teams in the NFC. Who's real, who's not? Harry?
I think the Seahawks are really real. I think that their offense is much more explosive than it has been. Russell Wilson has more touchdown passes in the first three games, I think, than anybody else in the history of the game. Their defense, I don't think has been super tested yet, but they look really good. I think they're the team to beat. I think Green Bay is playing really well. Their defense is suspect, but Aaron Rodgers has some weapons again. And when Aaron Rodgers has weapons, you can't count out Green Bay. I mean, look at them last year. They were right in it. The Bears, I think the Bears are going to be better now, and we'll see this week. But I think with Foles in there, I think he fits in with what they're doing. I mean, he just seems to be the special sauce for certain teams, and he may have came into the starting role a little early, but I don't think the Bears have as much staying power as Green Bay or the Seahawks. But right now the Seahawks are without a doubt, I think, the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, I have to agree. They are. I mean, Packers not too far behind them, but I mean Russell Wilson, the things he's doing, and just that whole team. They're the It's crazy to think that they weren't, they're not favored by more some weeks.
Well, he's got some vertical weapons now again, and he just looks on his game, and they're just dialed in. And
yeah, the Seahawks are absolutely for real. And Green Bay is probably, I guess I would say they're as for real as Aaron Rodgers is.
Right.
And we know certainly what he's capable of and how good he's looked this year too. I wouldn't consider the Bears for real. It would be interesting to see if Foles has got magic dust in Chicago, because really he's only been I think the special sauce you said for Philly.
Yeah, but I mean he certainly came in and sprinkled some pixie dust on it last week.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think they'll be better, but I don't think they'll be.
No. And the team that everybody has been high on for the last number of years, I just think the Saints have dropped off. And so with the Saints and the Vikings sort of taking a step back, I think it's Green Bay and Seattle, and I think Seattle is much better of a team right now. See what the Rams do. I can't quite get my arms around them, but I think right now Seattle is without a doubt the best team in the NFC.
I have to agree. Top three right now for MVP. If you were voting for MVP right now, give me your top three choices. People start with you.
I mean the league in general?
League in general. No AFC, NFC, just league in general, top three.
Let's see. Who would be first and who would be second? I would probably go Wilson, Mahomes, just because I think the Chiefs are a better team overall, a better defense. Or certainly there's some questions about Seattle's defense. And then I guess Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. So Wilson,
Wilson,
Mahomes.
Mahomes, Rodgers.
Harry?
Yeah, I don't know if you could really argue with that. I think it's a little too early. So much.
Of course, it's too early. I'm just saying.
So much emphasis goes on the quarterbacks in the league, and certainly you got to put Mahomes. I think you got right now. Russell Wilson's at the top of that list through 3 games. Mahomes is always going to be there as long as he's in the league, and I think Rodgers too. The thing that I say is, what defensive player is really making a difference this year? And I think it's too early to tell. There's been some injuries to some of the bigger names in the league, but I think as the season goes on, I think you're going to start to see some younger, newer defensive players pop up there because there's some people making a big difference, and I think some teams who have improved defensively. Once it comes playoff time, you might start to see them have a better chance.
Sure.
But I mean, Josh Allen.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say that too. I mean, I would throw, if I was picking 4, I would say Rodgers. My top 3 would be Wilson, Mahomes, and Josh Allen. They would be my top 3. And to answer your defensive player question, I think from what I've seen, single defensive player making a difference right now. I mean, Aaron Donald is probably just the one that's the standout at the moment.
Yeah, out at the moment, and what is his team, doing? I mean, I'm one of those people who looks at the MVP 2 ways: whose team is doing remarkably well, and who's leading that team to doing that, but also who's keeping their team, in contention. It's
And there's always a couple of defensive guys who seem to, come out of nowhere, or they were good, but this year they're really great. And, it is hard to, I think it's harder to judge the defensive player at this point in time than it is the offensive player, because they've got to emerge, and then you got to see if teams adjust to them.
Yeah.
Do they continue, you get that defensive end who comes out of nowhere and go, oh, wow, that guy's having a great season.
Right.
And then teams start to double team him and adjust. Does he continue it, or he's only good if he's being, single covered, so to speak.
I mean, I'll tell you what, looking at him so far, I don't think he's got a lot of talent around it. I'm not his biggest fan, as anybody who knows me can attest. I think at the end of the year, you're going to start, I think Cam Newton's going to be in that conversation. And, there's some other players. I mean, look at Green Bay. I mean, obviously Jones has had him in a hell of a year, and that's one of the reasons why Rodgers is looking a lot better.
Sure.
You got Kamara. He's already got 36 points he scored for the Saints. So it's I don't know.
It's still wide open. Like I said,
it's so early, and the NFL changes so much.
Yeah, really hard to do it 3 weeks.
Right.
All right, that brings us to our segment this week of Old Balls.
Old balls. Oh boy.
Wait, is that a shot at me?
Yeah, it could be, but it's not.
It's a shot at all 3 of us. That should be the name of the podcast.
That's right.
Old Balls.
It is actually. It's a bunch of old balls giving props to even older balls.
There you go. So Harry, who's the Old Balls winner this week?
I was watching some old footage, and I was a really young kid, and he was on the last leg of his career. And being an old offensive lineman, and one of the few people who actually watches offensive linemen play, it's John Hanna. I mean, John Hanna, who played for the New England Patriots, he was a 2-time All-American in college. He was a 9-time Pro Bowler, 10-time All-Pro, and NFL 1970s All-Decade Team, NFL 1980s All-Decade Team, NFL 75th Anniversary All-Time Team, NFL 100th Anniversary All-Time Team. And he played in 183 games, and unfortunately back then the Patriots were not the Patriots that we know now. But I don't think I've ever seen... I mean, there's a few offensive linemen. I think he's the best offensive lineman of all time. And I think nobody knows, most people don't know who the hell he is. So go Google John Hanna and watch some videos of him absolutely destroying people. And I mean, there's times when he would chip off a defensive end and then downfield take out another 3 players. He was unbelievable. I think I want to say where did he play? Alabama. He played for the University of Alabama.
He played Alabama, yeah.
And he's my pick for old balls. So go back and check out some of those games. He wasn't that big of a dude either. I mean, back in the day, offensive linemen, though, they weren't all 320 pounds and 6'8". I think he's probably my height. He's probably 6'1", 6'2". And but he was somebody that put it this way: when I was a kid, for whatever reason, I got some weird duffel bag. And it was, I think Steve Grogan was on it for the Patriots, and John Hanna. How many times does a team use promotional things like and an offensive lineman?
An offensive lineman
is on there.
Yeah. So go look him up. I mean, he's right up there. I think if you ask most people, if you had to pick one great offensive lineman, it would probably be either him or Forrest Gregg. But he's right up there, and I think, interestingly enough, I think even if he was playing today, I think he was kind of an athletic for his time, and a lot faster than a lot of other people, and I still think his abilities would translate.
Oh yeah, he played 13 years with the Pats.
I mean, how many people consistently? I mean, after 25 years, he still made it to another All NFL team. And he was on 2 All-Decade teams. I mean, it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
No.
Well, here's how you know he was good. I know his name.
Yeah.
If I know his name, then he was good.
Right. There you go.
And the Patriots were relevant in the late 70s.
They were pretty good. They were pretty
exciting.
exciting,
winning the division in the late 70s. I mean, they weren't just mediocrity. Well, I mean, the man is in the Hall of Fame. He's in Canton. It's in the College Football Hall of Fame too.
Yeah.
John Hanna. Old
Good
balls.
job.
If you just look at his picture, you just got to look at with the old helmet with like 2 bars on it. You got the elbow pads and bloody forehead and everything. Yeah, you got to.
Well, there you go, folks.
Old time football, putting on the foil.
Make sure you do your homework this week. Go Google John Hanna, put it in YouTube, watch some video, check it out. You will not be disappointed.
Is he the Eddie Shore of old time football?
Yeah, not quite, but yeah. He's I don't you don't hear much about him. He's obviously he's sort of retired and quietly and went. Who knows what he's doing? But
sure.
He was sort of the precursor even to the Dallas teams and the Washington teams when they had the Hogs and all that. He was sort of doing that and excelling at things that those guys did, a few years later. So
right.
All right.
He's pretty spectacular.
Well, there you have it, folks. That is our segment for this week, Old Balls. That brings us, let's talk a little bit about baseball. Let's get into the baseball playoffs are underway. There are 3 teams that are out of the 16-team field already. Who are the 3 teams that have clinched the divisional round? Harry, was that one of those teams?
Luckily, for whatever reason, the Yankees have this ability to, at times, score football scores in baseball. Unfortunately, they're all I've heard is how wonderful their bullpen is, and they drive me absolutely insane. They have 1 starting pitcher, and last time I checked, it's kind of this isn't the Babe Ruth era, so he can't start every other game. We'll see. They're going up against a team they can't seem to beat next. So I can't. Maybe 2020 is such a strange year that it just might be the year where the city of Tampa Bay wins every championship. You just don't know.
Yeah, you know what? That's very possible. It's very possible.
Obviously, they don't have a basketball team, but it's the Yankees.
You know what? It could be in all Florida.
They just can't beat the Rays, but Gary Sanchez learned how to hit the ball last night, so I don't know. He learned how to. He remembered how to not catch it again, and made Chapman face yet another batter that he shouldn't have faced. But they've got a lot of the Yankees have a lot of, I think, really good talent, and their defense is pretty good. It's just their pitching's so erratic, and I think I feared with Cleveland, especially in the first game. But the thing is that Cole's going to go up against the best starter on every team, and but we'll see.
He's really good.
He's really good, but
really, really good.
But he can't seem to beat Tampa Bay, and this year maybe the Astros won't be stealing signs. We don't know, but they look good. All of a sudden, Houston looks good. So maybe experience does have something to do with it. At the end of the day, the Yankees. I think the MVP of the league should be DJ LeMahieu. It's not his home runs he hits or anything like that, but you saw it last night. The game was on the line. He put on a hitting clinic like that would make Rod Carew happy. Hit an 0-2 or 1-2 pitch, I can't remember what it was, right up the middle to drive in the winning run. And so when you have people like that in the lineup who can hit clutch, they have a fighter's chance. But I think the Braves are the best team in baseball.
Really, you do?
I do.
I kind of feel like we're right back at the beginning of the season, at least as far as how I felt like the Yankees. Because they're the Yankees, and I felt like they're probably the favorites to win it all, and it's going to be interesting because it's 60 games, and they got off to a hot start, and then struggled a little bit, and they didn't win the division. And I heard somebody on the radio, I guess Tuesday, sort of starting to backpedal a little bit and concerned because Cole was going up against Bieber, and he started in with if they don't win the World Series this year, maybe it's not the worst thing. And then, of course, by yesterday morning after Game 1, everything was great. Stanton's starting to hit. Sanchez wasn't hitting because he wasn't in the lineup for Game 1, and then suddenly his demeanor completely changed, and everything was fine with the Yankees. And, they'd gone out and they beat up on the probable Cy Young winner, and that's very much kind of a Yankee-esque thing to do. And then, of course, now it's over, and just like that. And I'm kind of feeling like, yep, they're at least the American League favorites to win because they're the Yankees. Now Stanton's going to go on a tear because he's a streaky hitter, and Sanchez is starting to hit the ball, and it's all just going to come together. And, yeah, they do have issues with their pitching, but they've got the number one guy. Or their number one is very good, as we just said. So I'm kind of feel like, yep, we're back where we started at the beginning of this thing, and they're going to be the favorites to win it all.
There's two people I have no faith in, and it's Stanton and Sanchez. I think Sanchez is going to go down as just. I think the time to trade him was a couple years, and the other thing too is he's the biggest defensive liability the Yankees have had behind the plate in a very long time. In fact, I can't think of a catcher. The Yankees have had great catchers over the years, and Sanchez has been part of that hype. We'll see.
But you're willing to overlook that as long as he hits.
As long as he hits in the clutch, and I have better faith in Sanchez getting a clutch hit here or there than Stanton. I mean, Stanton hit a home run, but last night when with runners, and the Yankees were able to put it away, he was swinging at pitch. I feel like he's an easier out towards the end of the game. I think the clutch hitters on the Yankees, which are plenty, but you got Urshela and Torres and Judge and LeMahieu and Voit. But the other thing is I don't really always have faith in Aaron Boone's management. He's not great with the pitching rotations. And look, he took Voit out for a runner last night, and he took his best deep ball threat out of the lineup. But he took the American League home run leader, Major League Baseball's home run leader, out of the lineup for the knowing that his bullpen's going to make it a game. It's just,
but it was the right decision because they won.
At the end of the day, they barely won. Yes,
they won, so it was the right call.
That's right.
It was the right
He
call.
knew exactly what he was doing all along.
He did. Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you this: give me the ALCS and the NLCS. Pete, you first.
I think it's going to be Yankees, Astros. It would have to be, right? It has to be the Yankees and the Astros. I'm going to agree with Harry. I think Atlanta's certainly amongst, if not the best team in baseball. Just on a side note, I know I'm a Mets fan and I'm disgruntled, but the Marlins, come on! Come on,
It's
man.
it's 2020. Wouldn't it be
wrong.
just great if it was the Marlins and the Tampa Bay Rays?
That would be great. So probably going to be.
No one would watch it. Not even people in Florida. Half the people in Miami don't know that they have a baseball team.
We could drive down there and get good box seats.
Yeah.
So probably Atlanta, and boy, I'm Johnny, we talked. I'm on the San Diego bandwagon.
I was too, although they're down.
But I don't have a lot of confidence after they lost game 1. So Dodgers and Braves, and then who cares? I hate them both.
Yeah.
I have really no dog in this fight other than San Diego. There's nobody who I really care. I mean, maybe Oakland I'd love to see.
Yeah, that's what
But
the network wants. They definitely want a San Diego Oakland A's World Series.
There you go.
That would be great.
Up till 3 a.m. every night watching the games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's baseball games on at 10 o'clock in the morning here. I don't know. I think I agree. I think it's probably Dodgers, Braves. Although I think the Cardinals are a team that's kind of peaking at the right time. I think the Padres, you can't explain them, and the Marlins. So I don't know. I'll go out on a limb and say, I don't know how the schedule is going to match up, if it could even be that. But I think the Marlins have a hell of a shot. I think they're a hot team with good pitching, and I think if you only have to win a 3-game series and a 5-game series to get to the championship series, then But I think the favorites are the Dodgers and the Braves. And in the American League, I do think it's the Rays and the Astros. I don't think it's the Yankees and the Astros. And this is coming from somebody born in the Bronx but I'm a Yankees fan, so I'm also have the ability to sort of look at them realistically. Pitching wins you championships. The Yankees just don't have it.
Right. If I had to pick two, I'm leaning towards you too. I'm going Rays, Astros, and Dodgers, Braves. But I'm kind of hoping that San Diego does a little something. Depends on game 2. We'll see what.
I can't believe
if they lose game 2, they're not going to be able to do much.
I can't believe amongst the three of us, the Mets fan confirmed Yankee hater has got more faith in the boys from the Bronx than either of you guys.
Well, I mean,
although I won't be sad if the Rays come out of that part of the bracket. Don't get me wrong, but
I always said we should have cryogenically frozen Mariano Rivera and thawed him out. 2020 would have been the year. I mean, Chapman I have no faith in him. Look at him last year. I mean, LeMahieu hits a home run against the Astros to bring him in, and then all of a sudden he just gives up a fastball right down the middle to Altuve, and he almost blew it for the Cubs the year they won it. He just doesn't have the mental capacity to win it, and their bullpen is just erratic. It's erratic.
Does Mariano have any kids?
I don't think they're old enough yet, but yeah.
No, but they will be soon, right?
Yeah.
He's got to have a couple 16-year-old twins or something that are one's a righty and one's a lefty, and all they throw is the cutter.
That's right.
That's it.
If there's ever a time to sort of secretly genetically modify a pitcher, then yeah, we can take Randy Johnson and Mariano Rivera and create a super pitcher and just stick them down in Cuba for a few years and then bring them up.
There you go.
Yeah, no, they've got a deep bullpen, but other than Cole, I just don't see who the Yankees' second starter is going to be. Tanaka got Shinaka'd last night.
Yeah, he was not playoff Tanaka, that's for certain.
No, he was first week of the season.
And again, Andy. Last time I checked, Andy Pettit's not available. So
yeah, no, he'll be around for Game 5 of the next series if they need him.
Only Jorge Posada. He requested Jorge Posada catch him, which I'm okay with. Yeah,
I'm going to sign him to a 6-hour contract.
6.5 contract. The way things go. Yeah.
All right, folks, that brings us to the NBA Finals. Folks, right now, Harry, what's your take on that? I know your dog in the show was kind of beaten by the king. Where do you see the Finals going?
Well, yeah, it's over. The NBA. It's the Lakers. I said the Lakers in 5. I still kind of stand by that. I think Miami will be able to squeeze a game. And they don't match up. Miami doesn't match up well against Lakers. Really, nobody does. And the X factor for the Lakers has been Dwight Howard. That Nuggets series turned around when they put Howard on Jokic, and with him taking the pressure off of Anthony Davis, and Davis hitting 3-pointers at the end of the game from 30 feet, it's over. Yeah, I think it might have been over from the beginning. The Lakers are kind of peaking at the right time. They're fresh. I think it helped LeBron sort of having that long rest, and there's no chance in hell Miami wins this series.
Right. Do they win? Does Miami, if Miami's going to win a game, though, do they win tomorrow or do they win on Sunday?
I think they win Game 3. But how about those Nuggets? I mean,
yeah.
I was pulling for them, man. I was pulling for them. If for no other reason than the historical aspect of coming back from 3-1 down and then coming back from 3-1 down and then coming back. Well,
they're playing without their arguably one of their top 4 players in Will Barton, who's a hell of a defensive player. I think they need one more player. They need another big man up front who can take a little bit of the defensive pressure off of Jokic, who plays defense like a European, and they need a true point guard so that Murray doesn't always have the ball in his hand. But
right.
They got a great coach, and they're young, and I think they're going to be there for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think they're going to be around for a little while. As far as Miami, I look at it going in. You got arguably the greatest player ever, and you got AD, who stays healthy, is most likely going to be. I mean, he's legit.
Yeah.
And if he stays healthy, he's going to be amongst pick a number list of all-time great players. And then you have Miami, which is another great story. Boy, how great would Heat Nuggets have been? But they don't really have a superstar. I love Jimmy Butler and the other guy whose name I ever forget how to pronounce. But you're talking about two of the league's absolute top players, one of the all-time great players, and probably another guy who's destined to be on that list against, good guys, a good team. Plays well together in the Heat. Good coach, but it's just not enough. No, and now Dragic, whatever, he's out, I guess. And so any chance they had is, and that was probably true of any one of their starters going down for the rest of the series.
They needed everybody.
They might get one. They might win Game 4. Seems like LA is fond of the gentleman's sweep.
Yeah,
the 4-1 series wins.
They always fall apart for one game, and the Western Conference is just stronger. I mean,
better. Yeah.
It's just the East. Boston's a conundrum. Nobody can really. They can't really decide who's their team leader. That's their problem. But
well, Kyrie left a big hole.
Yeah.
When he left.
Yeah. Sure. Of course. Speaking of a big hole, speaking of the Knicks, what do you think about Tom Thibodeau going forward?
Well, I wish the Knicks would have waited and signed Doc Rivers or Tyrone Lue. I don't know. Tom Thibodeau's like, when you go to Village Inn, but your other choice was Arby's. It's good. It's okay. But Tom Thibodeau is like the guy who can take a team full of great defensive players and will them into the second round of the playoffs. And now he's coaching the Knicks. So it's like saying, well, what did you think of Jewel's new album?
Yeah, I mean, Thibodeau is not. Well, all right. It's like, let's look at the job posting that goes out, right? Needed professional basketball coach, franchise in disarray, idiotic ownership,
right?
Storied franchise, but really not for about 50 years now.
Right.
We need somebody to turn this all around with management that has no idea of how to spend money, who's good, who's not. Anybody can apply.
Yeah.
Tom Thibodeau's not the first name you'd want to put in that position.
I wish they would have asked me. I would have done it for half of Thibodeau's salary.
I would have done it for like $80.
Yeah.
And I hate the Knicks. But I probably, I couldn't have been any worse.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. I could have been much worse.
I think Thibodeau's an upgrade.
Agreed.
Until Dolan sells the team, though, they're never going to get a top free agent there. And look, that's what the NBA is all about now. It's about taking 2 of the top 10 players, putting them together, and seeing what happens.
And New York City is not.
It's not the draw anymore.
No, it's not. For these younger players, that place hasn't been. I mean, yes, there's all the nightlife and all that, sure. But as far as a sports franchise, the Garden and the Knicks, they're not. They haven't been relevant since before a lot of these kids were born. So, that whole Broadway and, that's not the allure. I mean, if anything, living in Brooklyn, which is right, the new hot spot, and then you just cross the river and go play for the Garden maybe, but it doesn't have that same allure. It's not the same city to the younger players.
All right, folks, why don't we get to the picks section of our podcast?
All right, football picks.
Time for football picks, folks. Time for football picks.
So just to recap last week, which was week 3, our first week of picks, Jersey went 5-0. Harry, myself, and the coin all went 3-2, which is sad for me because Harry was tied to the coin.
Well, I was the coin.
Yeah. So, and I was not, and I went 3-2. So, because we only have 4 games this week.
Only 4 games
Only
this
4
week.
games this week. So let's start off with them Broncos and them Jets. Anybody want to make a pick? I'll pick the Broncos.
I'm going to go out on the limb and say the Jets are going to win tonight.
All right. Oh, God. Do you want me to flip first?
I mean, I watch the Broncos all the time, and it's just I'm like, oh, the Jets, they should win. They got no maybe it'll be a tie. I'm all right.
You pick the tie.
I'm gonna go with the Jets. I just don't think the Broncos have a chance.
All right, he's gonna pick the Jets.
I mean, if the Jets can't win this game, then they might be worse than the Giants. I don't know.
There you go.
All right. Well, here's the coin. So heads will be the Jets and tails because the home team is heads.
Okay.
And we're gonna flip now. It's heads.
It's heads.
So there we go.
Picks.
All right. So
once again, I'm all alone.
might be for good reason. We'll see.
All right, Giants and the L.A. Raiders. No, the L.A. Rams.
LA Raiders.
I wrote LAR on the sheet.
The only team not in California.
St. Louis Rams.
I will.
Whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
I'll jump in and say that there isn't even a snowball's chance in hell that the Giants are beating the Rams this week.
Rams. Let's move on.
Okay. And let's just do a quick flip.
The coin might know something.
And the coin comes up tails. So he's picking the Gents.
Who did you pick, Pete?
Oh, sorry, Rams. We're across the board, Rams except for the coin. All right. All right, Philly at San Fran. Speaking of Philly, Giants might win one of those.
Well, that's what I said. I think
Giants
they'll
might win one of those games
Washington,
against the Eagles.
one against Philly, and that's about it.
All right. Harry?
San Francisco's hurt, but the Eagles do not look. I'm going to go with San Francisco. I just think they're going to be able to shut down that Eagles offense.
Johnny?
Yeah, 49ers, definitely.
Yes. Eagles suck, but the Giants are not good, and San Francisco pounded them. So,
Yep.
And the coin says heads. So we are all in agreement. 49ers. Yep. All right. Last game, Atlanta at Green Bay.
This is going to be a good game. Atlanta just can't close out games, but Green Bay does not have a great offense. I'm going to go with Green Bay, but this is a game that I'm on the bubble with. But it's in Green Bay. Not that really matters much these days in today's times. But I think the Packers will win it. But I think it's going to be a close game. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta scores a bunch of points on the Packers.
I'm going to echo that. It's definitely going to be a close game. The Packers will win. That's my pick. Aaron Rodgers and the boys will win the game. But my side note on that, anybody hearing this, take the over.
Yeah.
Maybe 47-45.
There's going to be a lot of points scored in this game.
Yeah, take the over.
All right. Well, we all agree on L.A. We all agree on 49ers. We all agree on Green Bay, I have to say. So the only difference we have between the three of us is I've got Denver.
Which might be
Correct.
smart.
Yeah,
or it might not be. All right. So here's the coin flick for Atlanta, Green Bay. And it comes up tails. So the coin is bold in their choices.
Look at that.
Of the New York Giants and the Atlanta Falcons. They might be right about the Falcons. They got to win sometime.
Yeah, at some point you would figure that
they've got to put up more points.
The Falcons are not an 0-16 team.
The Falcons
They're
can
not
easily
a
be 3-0 right now.
All right.
That about wraps it up, folks. I want to thank everybody for listening. Once again, you can check out all of our social media at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All of them are at The Logger Room. And, of course, our website is www.loggerroom.com, LAGERROOM.com. And if you're listening to this on either social media or our website, remember you can always go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and subscribe to our podcast feed. And you will never miss one episode. Yeah, we'll touch base with you next week, folks. Make sure you check out everything that we post on our website, on our blog articles, and, of course, all of our posts on our social media as well. Folks, once again, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Peace.